to the next screen. I want to take a little bit of time here to just talk about the different subscriptions that are available. All right, I'm going to skip over some of this. All right, so if you're using desktop and you decide to convert online, that's a whole nother thing that we're not going to touch on today, but it's pretty easy to do. I do it for folks here on a regular basis. So if that's something you're interested in, you might just reach out to me privately. But the advantage to using the online is, first of all, because it's cloud-based, and there's a mobile app as well as a desktop app, so you can use it on the go. There isn't really much to maintain because the Intuit's in the business of keeping your information private. They have some really great safeguards up, and it keeps your information, in my opinion, safer than keeping it on a desktop. So some of the different programs that are available, the first one is this one here. It's called the Simple Start. If you're just starting out and you are not sure what to do, this is a good program for you. You can use it for it's kind of bare bones. You can use it to track your income and expenses. As you can see here, you can use it to track mileage. You can use it to track some contractors. The drawbacks are you're limited to just one user. So if it's just you, that's fine. But if you're running a business where you have a bookkeeper, you're considering a bookkeeper, probably not a powerful enough program. This is the price that they're advertising online. That's why you see it here in the PowerPoint. But that's the most basic. Most of our clients use either this version here, which is QuickBooks Online Essentials. It offers a little bit more. You can run more reports with it. And I know that folks sometimes run into issues where they need reports for the bank. And we find that our clients who use either Essentials or the next one I'm going to show you, QuickBooks Plus, we can get the reports to them oftentimes within 24 hours, which is amazing. If you know anything about accounting reports, it used to take a week and people would request these things. But because your information uploads quickly and we can code it quickly, we can turn things around pretty fast. Online Plus is a step up from Essentials, and it's used more by folks who have to track various business components. So say you have inventory, or you have different projects that you're working on that you want to track, then you would need to step up to this. But if you're just starting out or just need the basics, Essentials really kind of covers it. And there is one up here, Advanced. I'm not sure that any of you would fall into this, but again, it's just a step up and 25 users and that sort of thing. But definitely, most of you, I'm going to just skip this because of the time, but I think would fall into the Essentials. So navigating QuickBooks Online can be a little tricky. This here is just a sample company. This is not an actual client, and you can actually go online and Google this yourself. As a matter of fact, QuickBooks sample company, and you can look at the same thing and, you know, kind of do different transactions with it. But the advantages of using a program like this versus trying to keep track of it yourself, one of the ones that I think is the main attraction for most folks is this feature right here. So what you can do is you can physically connect your bank account to the QuickBooks Online program. So this example here, Craig's Landscaping, what he's done is he's connected his checking account. And by doing that, you get a whole bunch of information there. First of all, you connect to the bank. You can hit update if you don't think it's the most recent information. The transactions will download here. But right when you log in, you can see two things. You can see what the bank has as your balance at that time, and you can see what QuickBooks has as your balance at that time. And as you can see, this client has a discrepancy. And that's most likely because there are transactions here that have not been received into the program. You can do it with checking, savings, or credit card. So those of you that maybe have been doing things manually, well, this saves a ton of time. Okay. And what happens here is each transaction comes in, and instead of trying to figure out where you want it to go and then recording and adding and all this stuff, you can just look at the transaction and decide what you want to do with it. So for example, I'll just pick any random one here, this one. It says that this came from the bank. It says that it came from something called Book by Betsy, and it's trying to match it up to an expense that's already in QuickBooks. So maybe the person printed a check, okay, and then ran the check through QuickBooks, and now the bank is saying, okay, this $75 check was presented, and that's why you see here this match, and you can match it up. So in the long run, you save yourself a lot of time. If you want to know, you can say, well, that's very nice. I want to know where it's going. If I choose this categorize, it's telling me here that QuickBooks wants to put it in something called uncategorized expense. If I happen to know what this expense is for, because it says books, let's just say it's for supplies, I can very easily right here on the screen change it to supplies, and then I can add it. And then when I go to look and see how much I've spent on supplies for the month or the year or whatever I want to know, this amount will show up. And that is, I feel, one of the most powerful features of the program. Another thing that's really nice for folks is when you first log in, you can go to this screen here called Dashboard, where I kind of skipped over, but Dashboard gives you a whole bunch of other information about where your company is at also. If you're running your invoices through QuickBooks, it shows you right here how many, how much you have in unpaid invoices and which ones are overdue. It also shows you what you've collected. So it's a quick visual of how you're doing as far as your cash collections are concerned. It gives you expenses. As you can see here, there's some profit and loss, and shows how the sales are going. I guess Craig's not doing so well because he hasn't had any sales for a while, but anyway, it gives you a quick little visual right there. I'm gonna check my chat and see if there are any questions right now. Let's see. We have questions in the chat, or should I just?
I didn't see any questions in the chat, so
Okay.
we'll be good.
Okay, all right, so I'll just keep going. All right, so depending upon where you are at with your accounting, another feature, one of the most important parts when you're trying to set up for QuickBooks that's really, really important is something called your chart of accounts. I'm just going to step back for 1 minute here. If you haven't done anything at all, or you've done very little, when you're in your QuickBooks program, this gear that you see up here in the upper right-hand corner, if you click on that, everything that you see in here is a setup category. So, for example, here where it says your company, if you click on the first item, accounts and settings, you'll see in here when it comes up that this is where you set up all your various account information. So, and you can get a lot of information out of here. So if you haven't filled all this in, you can, but you get all the information about yourself, and it's nice to fill that in if you're working with a bookkeeper or an accountant. You can see what your subscription is by clicking on this usage tab. So it tells you which subscription you signed up for. So if you signed up for something more powerful than you need, you can dial it back, or if you need to upgrade, you can do that here. It also shows you, because various subscriptions have various limits, where you're at with that. So here, for example, this is essentials, so that we're allowed 5 users here, so no one's signed up, and you're allowed 250 accounts and only 44 are being used. Sales expense and advanced, you can set up other more specific items for your specific company. And under manage users, that's where you can invite people to come in and use the program. Chart of accounts is kind of the heart of how you keep track of all your business transactions. Chart of accounts has everything, every category that you're going to use in running the business. So the top, when you log into it, it sorts it by accounting standards. So anything that's what the accountants consider an asset is going to show up at the top. So your bank accounts will always show up first, and then there's other assets here as well, like receivables and fixed assets. One of the things we see most here is that folks will go in to set up their chart of accounts, and they're not really familiar with these different account types or what to call the accounts. And oftentimes they're in categories where they don't belong. And like, for example, someone might take something that's an expense and call it an asset, and that can cause problems when you're looking for financial information or a financial statement. So setting up your chart of accounts appropriately from day one will save you a lot of grief. And there's a whole bunch of things you can do depending on the level of detail that you want in your chart of accounts. Like, for example, here you can see that this individual set up an account insurance, and then you can see indented here workers' compensation. So what they've done is they've set up, this is a parent account, this insurance account, and then they've set up what we call a sub account for workers' compensation. And depending on the level of tracking that you're looking for, you can do the same sort of thing to provide more detail for yourself on your actual spending. And the same thing's true here with job expenses. So you can see that he has job expenses and several sub-accounts here, cost of labor being one, equipment rental, job materials and permits. And then within those little sub-accounts, it drills down even more. So for cost of labor, that's being separated into 2 categories: installation and maintenance and repairs. And then job materials, same thing. He's got a few here. So you can use the chart of accounts to give you the information that you're looking for when you're looking at your own business, to see, you know, where you're spending or where you can save. And you can do it with income as well. He didn't really do that here, but like, for example, under sales of product, you could put different categories there so you can see how that's working out for you. So this is kind of the meat of the whole thing. Another important section that folks sometimes have some trouble with is setting up their products and services. Again, it's just another way that you can track everything that's going on in a way that works for you, instead of just a canned program there. So I don't know, do we have questions now, or should I just?
I haven't seen any come.
I don't know if anyone
Nope.
has a question or. No. Okay. All right. So That's very handy. Another, I'll show you here some reports. So one of the main reasons you want to use any accounting software, not just QuickBooks, but whatever you're using, is because you want to be able to generate reports either for yourself or for other users. And that this is something that can be tricky if you don't have a record keeping system. So I just want to show you quick what a profit and loss looks like when you run it from a program like this. So simply by going in there and feeding in the transactions from the bank and then coding them appropriately, you can generate a report like this in virtually no time that gives you at your fingertips whatever information anyone might be looking for, whether it's a bank or an investor or whatever you're trying to attract. And what's nice about QuickBooks here is you have this line item, design income, and you might say to yourself, well, what is that, or what makes up that? Just from the report here, you can, what we call, drill down by just selecting that here. And now by doing that, I can see the specific transactions that went into this design income account, and I can review them, and maybe I might say to myself, oh, this was not design income, it was something else. And then here I know I can maybe go and correct that, or maybe I say, oh yes, that's correct. But you can get some really cool information there just by selecting the report. You can also keep track of all your customers, which is nice here. So if I go over here on the left-hand side, I have some different tabs I can use to jump around, and under sales, if I go to my customers, I can see a list of all the customers. I get a whole bunch of information here of all the customers I have, but I also can see what else is going on. So some people use the QuickBooks to create estimates. This person is not doing that, but I have this here, $750 of unbilled activity. So I can just by clicking on this bar, take a look and see what's been entered into QuickBooks that maybe I didn't bill for yet. So here is a client, Amy's Bird Sanctuary, and I can look and see what's happening at Amy's. And it has all of her invoices here. And I can also see that she has an overdue invoice. If I want to start the invoice that it said for the unbilled activity, I can go here. And what happened is there must have been a design created for her that hasn't been billed yet. So it shows up here, and we can either send the invoice or we can wait until we're done with the project. What's nice about this invoicing too is you actually can send these invoices. I'm just going to go back to Amy for 1 second and go to this overdue one via email to your clients, so that they get it immediately instead of having to print out a copy and mail it. If you want to do that, I'm going to click here. Okay. You get this screen which shows you what the invoice will look like when your clients receive it, as well as what the email will say. And you can change this here. You can type whatever you want. I'll just add a little something here to show you, but you can change the body, you can do whatever you want. And you can also turn on payments. And when you turn on payments, that means when your client receives the invoice via email, they'll have a button at the bottom that says Pay Now. And they can click on the Pay Now button and either pay with a bank transfer or a credit card. And for the clients that we have that use that feature, we've found that their collections have increased dramatically, especially during all what's going on right now. It's helped really to speed that whole process up. Let's see. So you can use that to track your customers. You can also, if you use this tab here, expenses, you can do the same thing. You can keep track of all the vendors that you use. Okay. Just like this gear over here contains all the different items that you need to set up your QuickBooks, this button over here on the left-hand side that has new with the plus symbol has all the different tasks that you can complete when you're using the program. So if you want to do anything like create an invoice for a customer or pay a bill, those items would all be found here under the new button. Pretty much everything that's under the new button is also under one of these items on the left-hand menu. And just because this is the old way, I tend to go here instead of to the new button, and because I've been using it for a while, but it is easy to just find pretty much anything you're looking for here under new, whatever you're trying to do for a client or for yourself. Let's see. I'm trying to, let's see what else I might want to show you. This version of QuickBooks, and you need to have either Plus or Advanced for this, has a budgeting tool. So that can be very handy if you're looking to create budgets. But a tool that's in all of the versions that's also handy is this one here that's called Audit Log. And so if you're not the only person using the QuickBooks, if you have a bookkeeper or an accountant that's in your program, you will have access to this audit log, and it will show you everything that went on in here. Okay, so say for example, you're in there and you're looking for, I don't know, an invoice or something, and you can't seem to find it, and you think it might have been deleted. You actually can go into this audit log and you can see what people have done. So you can see if a transaction is edited, you want to know what happened, you can click on view and you get the whole story right here. So that is very handy, and that's not something you're going to get with desktop or a lot of other programs.
Laura, somebody wanted to know if there was an extra charge for using the Invoice Pay Now. Is there a special setup to use the Invoice Pay Now button?
There is a special setup. You have to basically apply. It's almost like a credit check. And there is a fee if someone uses their credit card. I want to say it's roughly 3%, just like most credit card fees if you run it through the bank. A bank transfer is, I think, 50 cents. So some people just offer the client's bank transfer only. But yeah, it's pretty much comparable with any credit card fee. And they can use any credit card, Amex, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, doesn't matter. So, okay.
But they can send them an invoice regular via email without having the Pay Now, right?
Absolutely, yes. So you can just send it and have people mail you a check, yeah. Yeah, okay, good. Also under here, you can set up your forms. I don't know that I want to get too much into that, but that's where you set up like the appearance of your invoices and that sort of thing. And what's kind of fun is they have this QuickBooks Lab in here, if you think these things are fun. And they put in QuickBooks Lab different items that they're testing out that may or may not come into QuickBooks. So you can go in here and see what's new and what might be coming in, and you can kind of put your 2 cents in and see if you kind of help with development. So if you like that stuff, that's super fun. Here, lists, this is where you can look at all whatever you have going on. So like this is just another shortcut. You can get to the chart of accounts this way too, or you can get to any lists you create based on location and things like that. You can import, if you've been using QuickBooks Desktop, like someone said they were, and you decide you want to move to the online, you can import all your desktop data, or you can just import certain items, like you could import your customer list only, or your vendor list, or that sort of thing. There's a reconcile. This is what we do for a lot of our clients, actually, that have the QuickBooks Online. We keep track of their transactions that are coming in on that dashboard that I showed you in the beginning. And then we go into here monthly or quarterly, depending upon what their needs are, some even yearly if they don't have a lot of transactions, and we reconcile. So what happens in reconciliation is you get the bank statement from the bank. I don't know if people still reconcile or not, but we do. And you look at it, and whatever the ending balance is, you put it here, and you put the date that the statement cut off. So just to show you, for example, I'm going to use last month to start. And the way reconciliation works here in QuickBooks Online is usually, I don't see it happening, but if a transaction had come through the bank and been cleared on the bank feed, when you go into reconcile, you will see it automatically checked off here already. All right, so it saves a lot of time. If you're keeping up with your QuickBooks regularly and you're reconciling every month, oftentimes you come here and you immediately see that the difference is 0. It's very nice, takes like no time to reconcile. But if not, then you go through it just like we always did in the old days, where you take your bank statement and you see what deposits have cleared, and you can check them off here. You know, and then you can see what checks have cleared, do the same thing, and hopefully get to a difference of 0. One of the things I personally like a lot about the reconciliation is that, as you can see up here on this bar, with the beginning balance, you can easily check that against your bank statement to make sure that's accurate. And you can also see payments and deposits total. So you can, usually on the bank statement, summarize right at the top, as you know. So you can check, and if you're not reconciled, you can automatically know, is it my payments that are off, or is it my deposits? And you can kind of hone in on it like that. Another feature of the reconciliation is if there have been any, which unfortunately here I'm not seeing any old reconciliations, they'll be listed here. So you can always go back to old reconciliations and check it out, see if maybe there was an error there. And you can also unreconcile and re-reconcile. So that's kind of handy. When you first log into Reconcile, if there have been any changes since you last reconciled, you'll get a big red alert up here that says your beginning balance changed, and you can click on that as well and find out what happened. And if you're really confused about it, can always go to that audit log and see who was in there and what went on. And again, that's really nice, because in the past we couldn't always find, we could go into the account and not really know why the changes were made, and maybe folks are busy and they can't remember why they changed something. But when you can go back into the audit log and look it up, a lot of times it triggers what went on there. Now, another feature that's nice is that as you grow, the program can grow with you. You don't really have to switch to a new program. Rather large companies are using the QuickBooks Online, believe it or not. So you can move up to things like you can run payroll through QuickBooks Online. If you decide to have employees or that need comes up for it, the Projects, that's a little complex, so I'm not going to touch too much on that in this discussion. You can also track sales taxes through QuickBooks Online. And as you can see here, trips, this is a fairly, well, they've been working on it, and it's not really new, but I find people are starting to use it more and more. You can use this to track your mileage for the year. So some people have apps on their phone that track their mileage, but if you don't have that and you want to keep track of it so that you definitely have that information at the end of the year, you can go into the trips and you can add trips as you go. Okay, so you can just create a trip and put any, information in here, whatever. And then at the end of the year, when you're ready to do your taxes, you can run a report with your mileage on it for your accountant, which is like super great. So just going to cancel that here. You can add vehicles here, whatever you want to do. You can also add this information on your phone app if you use the QuickBooks phone app. So you don't have to be at your computer, which is really nice for that as well. You can, let me go back to the dashboard too. Another thing that you can add from the app, which is kind of nice, is that you can add your receipts. You can take a picture of your receipt and you can upload it here. So if you are out on business and let's say that you don't have your business card with you for whatever reason, you have to pay for something and you use your personal account, you can upload a file. You can take a picture of it and later upload it here so that you remember to track that expense, because I think one of the biggest issues for small business owners oftentimes is missed expenses because of being out and things like that. Let's see. Do we have any questions? I feel like
Nope, I don't see any new questions.
Okay. If anybody just has questions about something that I'm not touching on at all, you can feel free to put it in the chat. That's no problem.
All right, can you show us how to generate the reports we would need for the PPP, both to apply for forgiveness and if we're able to apply for a second round?
Yes, I can. So honestly, by simply putting the information into the program, either manually or using the bank feed that I showed you, you really would only have to come down here and go to this reports tab on the left, and you could get the reports that you need. So one of the questions that they asked for a profit and loss, I believe, was one of the items for the PPP. So you can select profit and loss right there, and a report will come up. In the program, whatever defaults are set up in the beginning is what will show up here as far as the time frame of the profit and loss. So you say you need one for 2019. Up here at the top of the report is where you can change any of these settings just for this specific report. So if I don't want this year to date, I want last year, I can use a drop down here and I can select instead last year. Okay. And then if I choose run report, you'll see, well, he has no information, but it changes the dates and it will pick up those items. So the most important part of being able to generate the report for the PPP is having accurate information in the QuickBooks to begin with. So that's something that either a bookkeeper or an accountant can do for you. And it's really, I think it's a smart investment I can tell you that our folks who use a bookkeeper on a regular basis who is familiar with the program, or even use an accountant to do the bookkeeping, in the long run spend less money on accounting fees than the ones who come in at the end of the year with receipts in a box, basically, because we spend a lot of time sorting through that and trying to figure that out, where this is very streamlined. So the most important part of having the report for the PPP is spending your time here, making sure that all your transactions end up in the correct category so that when you run the profit and loss report, it actually is valuable. Some folks have employees, and if you do, then the PPP report asked for, or the PPP application asked for various figures that have to do with your payroll. And if you're running payroll through QuickBooks Online, any of those reports would show up here under this payroll category. And the same thing is true if you're using the program exclusively for all your transactions, the reports are just generated automatically. No. Were there other questions, or I can just show you this, my accountant here. So my accountant is a spot where you can go back and forth too with your accountant or bookkeeper with questions, or if they need things from you, they can send you a message saying, I need your bank statement for July or something like that. And you can, however you get it to them if you upload it to Dropbox or give them a physical hard copy, whatever. And you can invite them here by simply putting their email in. Once you invite them into your QuickBooks, whether it's an accountant or bookkeeper, they'll have their own private login to your QuickBooks. They won't be using your username and password, so you're not required to share that with them. And at any time, if you want to terminate that relationship, you can go here to this Manage Users tab, and Manage Users will show you your users. And since he doesn't have any, we can't see it, but you can actually, one of the actions is to make inactive, and you can inactivate someone, and then even though they have their own login, they won't be able to have access anymore. So you control all of that, whoever owns the account. Any other questions, or is that no other?
I do not have any more questions.
Okay.
Here.
All right. So go back here for a second. So another kind of cool thing with invoices too that we like is right here you can see immediately it was overdue. And you can either click on the whole box, or I can just click on the bar and I can get right to my invoices, and all, because I clicked on overdue, all the overdues went to the top of this list. So sometimes you find out maybe there's a record keeping error, so you could get rid of the overdue invoice by receiving their payment. But if that's not the case, you can send people a reminder too. So you can, if I decide I want to send this person a reminder, same thing happens that happened when I sent them the invoice. I get this screen here and I get this canned email, and I can edit this to say whatever I want it to say and personalize it for my clients, and I can send them a reminder that they need to pay. Another kind of cool feature is if you go here to this invoice, cookies by Kathy, and I say, oh, Kathy didn't pay. If I scroll down, let me try a different one. Typically, when you go into the invoice if you've emailed it before, and I think this just might be because it's the sample company, when you scroll down below the invoice, you actually get a little record of what happened. So you can see, for example, the day you originally sent it to them, you can see if they opened it or not. You can see how many times they opened it. So sometimes, if you're a business owner, you know, you might have an unpaid invoice and you might mention it and someone might say, oh, I don't think I got that. Well, you know, you can find out if they indeed got the invoice or not. And not that you want to mention that, but it's just kind of nice for yourself to know what's happening there. I think it's like a little audit trail for you, just like this trail up here. If you're looking for someone to help you with your QuickBooks, you can go to the Intuit website and you can look for a pro advisor. They have lists there. Let's go to my experts here. Or you can use different features that they have in the program itself, like help or the chat. I don't know if you've used that before, or you can just go through the message board where they have various comments. Someone might ask a question and then people will comment on that. Let's see what else I can show you. Oh, I'll show you this. So something else that's kind of interesting that you can do with the transactions is, let's say every single month you're paying Eversource and it's always going to electrical expense and you know it's going to be electrical expense and you don't want to code it every month on your dashboard to electrical expense, you can go here under banking and use this tab rules. And under rules, you can create a rule so that every time that Eversource shows up on your bank feed, it goes to electrical expense. Okay, that are money, and then so you can apply the rule here every time there's money going out from a bank account, and you can say the description contains Eversource, then assign this expense to, what find it here, gas and electric, and then you can just, I'm just gonna pick, I'll show you how to do this. Okay, so in this case, Eversource was not on the list of vendors, so you don't have to go all the way out, which is kind of nice, add the vendor, come back in, and blah, blah. You can just say, I want to add this from here as a new payee, and you get a short version of the screen here that it's just a vendor, and later I can go into my vendor list if I want and add some more specific information about them, like their address or whatever else. I don't know why that just didn't go there, but. And then you can save it. And now you have a rule. Every time that this shows up, it's automatically going to go to electrical expense. And you can create as many rules as you want in here. Here, under this, where it says receipts, this is where if you upload a receipt, you would find it when you come in to the program, and you can either add it, or you can, if you already have a transaction or you're just trying to upload some extra information for your records, you can attach the receipt to that transaction just so you have it, and you don't have to keep the paper copy is basically what happens. Let's see. I don't know. Projects. We have maybe, I think it looks like we just have a few minutes left. So if anybody just wants to ask anything random, just feel free. That's fine.
If anybody thinks of anything, you know, afterwards, I'm more than happy to put you in touch with Laura. If you didn't copy down her email address at the beginning, we can get that out to everybody. You'll get a feedback about this class, and in that feedback, I'll give you the link for this test account that Laura was going through so that you guys can play around with it yourselves for people that don't currently have QuickBooks.
Yeah, even if you have it, you can go in there. Anybody can go in there. And it's nice if you just want to test something out to see how it's going to work instead of doing it in your own company and then not being able to go back and undo it. You know, that's handy. Oh, I just want to thank you all for coming today, and I hope you learned something about QuickBooks today that you didn't know. And yes, again, if you have any questions, just don't hesitate to reach out. We're here, and everybody in the office actually is certified QuickBook Pro Advisor, so. For the online.
We have a bunch of thank yous, Laura.
Oh, that's nice. That's good.